It's time for Quarantine Cabaret Cocktails with Robert Bannon and Lee Lessick.
This week,
Do you live next door to a craft store? Because I don't know where you get this shit.
This is my pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving. You know,
I realize that. But last week we had the cast of Tootsie and you had a wig on. Maybe you have that in your closet. I don't know. I don't judge. I'm not judging. I'm asking.
I'm in a relationship with the Dollar Tree. You're exclusive.
I mean, you come on eating funnel cake.
These are the things
candy.
Entertain people, Lee.
We're in a quarantine. Where do you get it?
Amazon. No, the dollar store. The dollars. And, you know, I love a gimmick. I'm like the Gallagher of cabaret, quarantine cabaret and cocktails. Next week, I'll smash a watermelon.
You literally keep me entertained because I never know what's going to happen.
I don't tell him because I'm too embarrassed to tell him because I'm like, this is probably tacky and terrible. We're just going to go with it.
I love it.
Hi, everybody.
How are you? How was your week?
I'm good. This painting is from Vieira, our loyal.
One of our very loyal fans from Milwaukee who watches every week. She always is on our pre-show. We do a pre-show at 3:30 or 6:30 if you're on the East Coast, 5:30 if you're in Central Time on Instagram Live. And she's always there. And she painted that for you for your birthday.
She did. She called it the Audacity of Hope. She sent it to me. She talked to Lee, got my address, didn't put her in a card, nothing. It was a mystery, and I figured it out. So thank you, Vieira. It will hang prominently in my house.
Beautiful. She's talented. I had no idea that
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's great.
Did you have a good week? I know we were very excited about today's show.
Yes. Did I have a good week? I guess I did have a good week. I'm very concerned about the corona thing. I just am. The numbers are really bothering me, and I just feel like we have to have a nationwide mandate. Like if everybody stayed home for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
No gyms, no restaurants, nothing. Stay home. I think it would really flatten the curve, and that's what we need to do. But I don't know.
I felt that way, and it's scary because I know everyone's dying to go out and do things, but we're just prolonging this process and people lives at stake. So it's
crazy. I have a really good friend that lives in Paris, and they are only allowed out of their house for 1 hour a day. They have to stay within a 1 mile radius of the house. And if they want to go beyond that, they have to apply for a permit.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's serious.
Yes.
But, they're not messing around.
Can you imagine being quarantined in Paris? I would be 800 pounds. I would have eaten every chocolate croissant. Oh my God. It would be a bad scene.
That's crazy. Just crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're doing good. We have a new puppy.
Yes.
And she's so sweet.
You have a little late.
We rescued a year-old purebred golden. That never happens.
Mm-hmm.
That never happens because purebred goldens are never rescues. But anyway, she was abandoned and we got her. And it's been really fun. It's been really fun because we have 2 other Goldens and they are obsessed with her. So it's just nice.
I love it. That she's beautiful. If you follow. Yes, of course.
Erin, I am right there with you.
Baguette and cheese and I don't know, whatever.
Right?
Yes, it'd be bad. But your puppies are the 3 of them. The 3 of them, they pose like a photo shoot. My dad got a dog. He brings it to me, and it sleeps under the counter. And today he was like, "It's not It got comfortable. It's now running around, biting socks and shoes and feet." And I was like, "Well, it wasn't going to just be there forever." No.
Thankfully, she's a year old, so she came, she's housebroken. She's not a chewer,
It's good.
She has some learning to do. She jumps up a lot, but she's so sweet. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Well,
and what are you going to do for Thanksgiving?
Well, that's a big controversy. I don't have a good answer. We usually we are a very classy family that have a dinner with my uncle's house, and we all play a family tournament game of Rummikub with a trophy that says,
I don't know what that is, but go on.
Rummy, the card game with little tiles, and then you win and we have a big trophy, and you could be the Grandmaster Rummikuber. And you can keep the trophy for the whole year. It's big and obnoxious and very
Is that something you aspire to in the Bannon household?
No, I don't. I don't have a competitive bone in my body. So usually in the past, I would leave and go to the movies and not care about the game. But I don't know what's going to happen. We talked about it. We talked about it being outside. It's going to be cold. I mean, we may just make it smaller. I don't know. How about you, Lee?
I think we're just going to be home.
Yeah.
I don't know. I bought a 20-pound turkey.
For turkey sandwiches for days.
But I love to cook, and I have my menu. I am making iron skillet cornbread and stuff. Oh yes, and I make a really good turkey, and I'm excited. And then we'll eat off of that for years. Because
that sounds amazing.
20-pound turkey for 2 people.
I'll get in my car and I'll start heading to LA now.
There you go.
I'll pick up Daisy again, and we're going.
I have some friends that we have been seeing because they're single and working at home and isolated. But one of them just had to take a business trip, and I'm like, oh, nope. See you in 2 weeks. It's just not. And Mark's sister and her family live here, but she's a makeup artist, and she's the department head for the TV show, The Morning Show.
Right.
And they're so strict. I mean, when you're in production now, there's like a COVID ambassador or policeman or something that, and so she can only go from the studio home and back. So normally they would come over with our nephews, but no, it's fine.
Listen, if we all stay safe this year, then we'll all be together next year, God willing.
Yeah, exactly. I am so excited for today's show.
Me too.
I know, right?
Excited.
So we have 2 amazing actresses. They're both Tony Award winners, and I believe that they are the 2 youngest Tony Award winners. But our first guest is literally the youngest Tony winner in history. She was 11 years old when she starred in The Secret Garden, which I saw and loved it, obsessed with that cast recording. And I'm excited. I haven't seen her in a while. She and her husband and their son left LA and moved to the East Coast, and now they're back, which I didn't know. I thought she was still on the East Coast, but I'm so excited she's here because that means I'll get to see her soon in person. But I just want to share with our viewers the talent that is Daisy Eagan.
The Tony Award goes to Daisy Eagan.
I need a place where I can go, where I can whisper what I know, where I can whisper who I like, and where I go to see them. Then have no doubt about it, we'll have the grandest garden ever seen. I'm just a Broadway baby, walking off my tired feet, pounding 42nd Street to be in a show. Oh,
and yes, I promised not to tell. What else is there, although? If in the maze you chance to see a garden guarded by a tree, and hear a bird who speaks to thee, then come back in your brand new coat and tell me all there is to see. Trees to be climbed up, days to be young on,
Hi,
Wow. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. It's so weird to go back and look at old footage, and I feel bad for the kids of today who their whole lives are going to be recorded, and they're just going to live like as adults, just like, oh God, it keeps coming back. And all of that stuff was professional, so I can't even imagine.
Well, it's really fun to go digging. We dig around and try to find nooks and crannies and fun stuff to highlight the many facets of your career.
Yeah, it's been a long one. Although most of Secret Garden, according to them,
No, and it's not. And you know what I found today? And I literally found like an hour. I found firstly, your voice is gorgeous, and but your acting, and I saw your acting reel, and I was like, oh, and that show, and she was that character, and she was in this movie, and she was in that, and you have done so much television.
I know. It's funny. I forget. And when Lee asked me to do this tonight, I was like, "Is there singing involved?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, "I'm in," because I've just, it's a lot. But I did a podcast earlier in the quarantine, and the host of the podcast like sort of read my most recent credits, and I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, I forget that like I've actually worked a lot. Because you're always comparing yourself to like the next level up. But yeah, I've been very lucky to have a pretty good career.
You're
Now,
a good actor.
Yeah. Was Secret Garden, was that your first musical experience? Take us
No,
up to that.
I hadn't grown up seeing a lot of theater. We didn't have a lot of money, and my mom chose to spend her time and money on food. She was very like French influenced, so it was a lot of like food in our house and wine growing up. I mean, I wasn't having the wine, but
We don't judge.
So I didn't have a lot of exposure to theater. And then when I was about almost like 9, my dad was doing a play at Coney Island. He had been an actor in the 60s and he had quit. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. Whatever that is, I want it. And my parents were very reluctantly supportive because my mom had like Tatum O'Neal and Drew Barrymore and those stories in her head, and Steve Coogan, and she just didn't want that for me.
Got it.
And so I think they thought I would do some like community theater and like get it out of my system. And the first thing I auditioned for was was a musical version of A Christmas Carol that was like narrated by Tiny Tim. And I went in for a tiny little part in the ensemble. And I didn't even bring a song to the audit. Like it didn't occur. We were so green. So I sang Row, Row, Row Your Boat. And I got cast as Tiny Tim, and my dad got cast as Bob Cratchit, and it was at Brooklyn Academy of Music. So that was my first real musical experience. And then right after that, I did Les Mis. On my Christmas list that year, I said I want another part in another musical. And they were like looking through backstage, and they saw little Cosette, and they looked at me, and they were like, okay. So I went to an open call, and I had short hair because of Tiny Tim. And so they were like, oh, maybe you could sing Gavroche as well. And I did. And I was the first girl to understudy Gavroche in Les Mis, in the Les Mis world, which started a long career of, well, actually, I guess Tiny Tim started a long career of cross-dressing on stage. And yeah, so Secret Garden was like my third professional gig and my second Broadway show. So I was like, jaded.
Right. You were just
Jaded at 11.
Yeah. Another day in the office.
Here we go, back on Broadway.
It's so tiresome, the grind.
You also, besides acting in television and Broadway, you have had quite a run of doing one-woman shows.
Yes, yeah. I quit theater. I feel like Lee, I don't know which way my hair is going because
it's going that way. It's going that way.
Because the camera's backwards. I feel like I met Lee around this point. I can't really remember, but I had quit acting and I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. Forget it. And then a friend of mine invited me to come sing in like his, theater night. And I was like, sure, I have nothing to lose. Who cares? And I did. And I was like, oh, I remember this part. This is fun. This is, I get to like make people laugh and sing whatever I want. So I wrote my own show, which was, a mess. It was my first show, so that's okay. I'm forgiving myself for that. And then I guess it must have been I got pregnant with him, and I was like, oh, I need to write a show about this. So I think that's when I wrote my second one, if I'm right about that. Yeah, I've done 2 or 3, I guess.
Yeah.
And I love them because I do get to sort of tell my own story the way I want to, and I get to sing whatever I want. Doesn't mean that people don't have lots of feedback. People are always either, the 2 big pieces I get are either do more songs or do fewer songs. And I'm like, well, can't do both.
Yes.
So.
Don't you love getting unsolicited feedback?
Yes.
I think it's very prevalent in the sort of cabaret, Broadway concert world.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're the type that's like sitting at the bar afterward, like trying to process with your musical director, and somebody comes up and they're like, listen, here's my notes. And you're like, oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. And also because of the internet, everyone's like, ticky tacky, here's how I feel.
Yeah. Yep. So what are you, I know you've got a lot of, logs on the fire. Is that the irons on the fire?
Yeah. Irons, pans.
Yes.
Whatever.
So tell me, because I know some things you can't talk about yet, some projects, but some you can, and I wasn't sure which was which. So.
All right. Well, my main gig these days is a full-time parent, which is weird because I never applied for that position. But
you kind of did.
Yeah, and
it pays terrible.
It pays terribly, and I feel like my performance reviews are awful consistently. It's like, my supervisor, who is also my 7-year-old son, is just he's not impressed. No, that is what it is. And I'm working on I'm just going to say I'm working on a podcast, and that's sort of all I can say at the moment. Okay. We're going to hopefully be launching in January. And it's the kind of thing where if he was in school, I would drop him off at school and I'd come home and I'd sit and I'd work and then I'd go pick him up. And I don't have that luxury right now. So it's a lot of like, just go play Minecraft. And then I'm like furiously trying to get work done. And then I look at his YouTube search history and I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna pay for a lot of therapy when he's
No, I'm sure he's amazing and you're doing great. And I can't wait for a podcast, because I think that it takes a certain personality, in my opinion, to do a one person show that you do. And you besides the singing and whatever, your personality and even through your acting is just so entertaining and so sweet. So
thank you.
I'm sure podcast people would absolutely love to hear you chat and talk and about what's going on.
Well, I appreciate that. And I've discovered, that I love to write and I'm very good at it. So this project is takes a lot of writing. And I do love doing it. So it's rewarding. And it's the only other thing I have besides my son right now. So it's thank God, because otherwise I think I'd have stick to my head. I would have sticked my head in the oven.
Right in.
But yeah, thank you so much, Allie. What I do feel like there's other things, but those are the two sort of my main bags right now.
How have you been doing through this quarantine? Like, we've been here for 10 months. You're in LA. How do you how do you stay sane? I don't know.
Yeah. How do you even ask that question? It's a
I don't even know.
His last day of school last year in March, I was walking him to school and I was thinking, first of all, it's insane that I'm taking him to school right now because people are dying. School shouldn't be open. And then I was like, today's going to be the last day. So today, that was the last day. And they send him home and they're like, we're going to be closed for 2 weeks. And I was like, yeah, we're that's it for first grade. So we made it through. That was hard. You know, school was trying to figure out how to make it work. We were trying to figure out how to make it work. My partner at the time got furloughed from work. So we ended up getting married so he could be on my health insurance.
Got it.
And then he immediately went back to work. So I think it was all a ruse just to get married to me. It worked.
Score.
Yeah. And now we're sometime in June, I had this sort of like little mental space window opened where I was like, oh, okay, this is where we are. All right. Because I turned 40 last year.
Okay.
And I was like, 40 is going to be my year. I'm going to be like an Edie Falco where like my career really takes off like in my 40s and like, it's going to be great. And everything was ramping up to that. And then everything shut down. And so I was fighting against it for a long time. Like, this isn't fair. And this was supposed to be my year and rah, rah, rah. But I really did sort of have this breakthrough where I was like, okay, this is what it is. And I could sit here and be angry and upset and cry and do all the things, which if those are the things you have to do, fucking do them.
Do it, right?
But I think for me, and I think also I was at an advantage because I've struggled with depression and anxiety my whole life.
Sure.
So for people who have been mentally very healthy their whole lives, I think this last 8-9 months has just been like their introduction to anxiety and depression.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a seasoned pro at that. And I came to this moment where I was like, okay, so I thought that I was leading up to like a big career thing. Apparently I was just leading up to like, I don't know, a big life thing and like just sort of settling into who I am and how I see the world and who I want to be and the kind of parent I want to be. And it's okay. It's like, it's been a sort of organizing, I guess, of life. And which is not to say that it's not hard. And today's been a hard day with my son. He asked for a piece of candy and I lost my mind. I was like, oh! And then I was like, okay, that was an overreaction and I'm sorry.
Oh my
Yes,
God.
you're a person. You have to forgive. Like it's such
Right.
unprecedented time. There's so much pressure and stress, and
Yeah.
it's so hard.
And I think back on my mom, who I think also had to give up a lot in her life for 2 children. Well, one that she chose to have, and then I came along and I was a surprise. But like, she wanted to be a mother, you know, and so she did make that choice. And yet she also had to give up so much. And you know, I'm here like folding the laundry and making his lunch and making sure that he's academically whatever. And I'm like, you know, where am I in all of that? And I feel for my mother in a big way that I never have before.
Yeah. I think everybody here's the good news, I guess, is that everybody is processing the very same feelings. Everybody,
Yeah.
every mother is feeling what you're feeling.
Yeah.
You know, so hopefully there's comfort in that unity somehow.
Yeah, I have, you know, I've got friends on Facebook or the other one, Instagram. Who cares? It's all the same. Who are like, you know, I'm struggling. Like, I'm either yelling at my kids or letting them watch Netflix and eat cookies. And I'm like, girl, fucking do it. Like, who cares?
Right.
You know?
That we're all surviving.
Exactly.
I have a good friend who's a writer, and she posted something today. She was at Just Tires getting her tires rotated or something. And she said to them, how long will it be? And they said, 30 minutes. And she said, well, why don't you put some other cars in front of me? Because she's like, they have really strong Wi-Fi. And it's the first time I've been away from my family for 9 months.
Yeah. I mean, it's really true. I go, the only real time I get to myself is I go and I like volunteer and feed people who need it. And I'm like doing stuff, but at least it's quiet and I'm alone. And actually my son came with me this last time and he fell asleep and I was like, oh my God, it's 30 minutes of quiet. Nothing is happening.
Well, you're quite the social activist in your own way. You have always been very charitable and very conscious about the world and about relationships and people. Has that always been something that's interested you?
Yeah. I was raised, my parents were both like radical hippies. I would say they were like weather underground adjacent. They weren't like in the weather underground, but they were like, hey, you need a place to stay and hide from the police? You can come stay with us. And like same with like the Black Panthers. So I was around that sort of activism a lot growing up, and my mom was always taking us to like, pro-choice rallies and pro-union rallies, and we were always boycotting lettuce or grapes or Nestle. Like we were very aware in my house. Yes, as you do.
We're having a great boycott right now.
Are we? Okay, it's good to know. See, I turned off the news also when all of this started.
You did. Good for you.
Yeah. I mean, it was partly I turned it off before all this started because I realized like every morning I would put on All Things Considered and I'd just be like, do, do, do. And then suddenly I realized my 6-year-old, 5-year-old at that time, like I can barely process what's going on in the world. How is he putting this together that like the people who are in charge are not in charge and they're doing a bad job? So I turned it off then for him. And then for myself, once this all hit, I turned it off because I was like, look, I know what I need to know. I already know who I don't want to vote for. I know who I'm going to vote for because it's going to end up being the default. I know that there's a pandemic, which means that we shouldn't be out licking each other's faces. So let's stop doing that. Like, I didn't need to have the news on all the time. It was just making us insane. So I actually don't know a lot of like the little things, not that they're little, but like people are like, there's a spike in cases. And I'm like, I don't leave the house anyway. So stop leaving the house. Right. So yeah, I grew up aware, and then I became a public figure in I wouldn't say the middle. I would say at the beginning of like the public awareness of HIV/AIDS. And it's so sad that 91 was the public awareness because we'd been dealing with it for almost over a decade years. By then. Yeah. And so I was, apparently the first person to wear an AIDS ribbon on screen, or I was the first woman, and I had no idea. And it was because I was like, of course I will. My friends are dying, and my friends are affected. Of course I'll do this thing. It never occurred to me that it was, and it never would have occurred to my parents, like, oh, we shouldn't make a political statement. They asked us to go sing at Bush 1's White House, and we said no. They asked us to sing at the ticker tape parade for General Schwarzkopf, and I said no. I was 11, 12 years old. So yes, I've always been politically aware. And my mother, I think, was as much of an intersectional feminist as a second wave feminist in the 80s could be. Mm-hmm. Like, she was like really for the farm workers and all of that. But I think our social life was pretty white, lower middle class. But, I do think for her generation, she was pushing the boundaries. And I think I've sort of, picked up the mantle and carried it forward. And now having, it's pretty clear he's straight, my son. a straight white boy, you know, it's very important, I think, for me to make sure he's aware of his privilege and his position and, you know, what is happening in the world. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you sound like a great mom. And,
Thank you.
And
You do.
you sound like a great
And when it's safe to leave the house, you all have to come over and we'll have a pool
Oh,
day.
I can't wait. I can't wait. We're also
Yeah.
doing like a Thanksgiving with nobody here too. So
It's what we do.
Yeah.
And
I think we're going to be in lockdown for quite some time.
Yes.
And so this show is going to go on. This is week 33.
Oh my God.
Isn't
Way
that
to do
crazy?
it. That's
Isn't
amazing.
that crazy? So we would love to have you back on because you are so lovely to talk to.
Really.
And we'll bring you back in the new year.
Yes, please.
It would be my absolute honor. And please tell Lea that I love her endlessly until the end of time.
Perfect. I will.
You so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank
Stay
you,
safe.
guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
You too.
Mwah.
Mwah. Thank you. Oh my goodness.
I just love her.
Wonderful.
I love her. So,
what a smart,
she is.
funny person.
Yes.
Really.
We have to have her on as a co-host.
Yes, we'll have a whole show. She could bring on whoever she wants.
I'll call her and see who she wants to have as a guest.
Yeah.
And we'll have her as a co-host because she's smart and I love her point of view and I'm always inspired when I'm around her.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, I keep forgetting to do this, but number one, we have a podcast.
We do, too.
All of our shows have been turned into podcasts. We're on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, iTunes Podcasts, Pocket Casts.
If you missed
all of them,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, come listen to them. They're there.
Yeah, they're all there. So that's that. And also, if you love our show, and I know you do, feel free to donate to our tip jar because it costs us money to do this. We did not start this for profit.
No.
That is clear from the deposit level of my bank account, but it does cost us money to do this for the platform and everything else. And anyway, so if you love it and you want to support it, feel free.
Yeah.
There you go.
And the show literally runs on the hours of me and Lee, which we're not complaining about, but it does take time and we do spend money. So thank you for watching. We couldn't do it without you. And Lee, before you introduce Lea, I just want to say, hey, I see in the comments, the gentleman who runs the Lea Salonga Facebook fan page is in here and he retweeted and reposted it. So thank you to our new friend. Let me look up. He's up a bit. It's K, is there a KJ? Fletcher.
I don't see it, but that's okay.
This Fletcher.
Oh yes, Fletcher.
He just reposted it in a Lea Salonga Facebook page. So I told everyone, say hello if you're here. So hi, all the new fans and friends that are from around the world here to see Lea.
So I want to show a little bit of Lea. You know, she's amazing, as we know. She's probably the second youngest Tony Award winner. I think she was 20, but she had already won the Olivier Award for Miss Saigon in London when she was 18, I think. Am I right?
I think so.
I think. So have a look.
And the Tony Award goes to Lea Salonga, Miss Saigon.
I still believe you will return. I know you will.
Let me share this whole new world with you. A whole new world. That's where we'll be.
That's where we'll be.
A thrilling chase.
A wondrous place
For you and me.
Yes!
Oh my God. How are it's so good to see
Thank you, Jess. Thank you so much. Yeah, great to see the both of you.
Thank you so much for being here.
It's so fun watching this little sizzle reel of my career. I'm like, dang, I did all that. Dang, okay.
You know, I saw you in London when Miss Saigon first came out. I think that was the first like mega musical that no one could get tickets for. I mean, it was the first that I remember.
Right.
And so my sister Susan and I were like backpacking in Paris, and
Okay.
and I was trying to arrange to get tickets, and I was working at the time for Henry Winkler, the actor, as his assistant, and his publicist in London was trying to like wrangle us 2 tickets, and it was impossible. And he said, here's the best thing I can do.
Right.
You have to show up at the theater, and they hold back some tickets that it's like a lottery that night. And, you know, get there early and get on the list. And, you know, and I was like, okay, so we traveled to London from Paris, hoping that we would get in. And we did. We got like the very last row of the balcony, and boy, oh boy,
those seats are some of those seats are kind of dicey because you're so far away. However, the thing about that theater is that every seat sounds amazing.
Yeah,
it's just the way they just knew how to build theaters.
Well,
and yeah, nobody had to really, you know, worry about the acoustics. Everybody knew that it was going to sound great, and I had to have faith that it did, no matter how far the people were away from me.
Well, let's just say that any seat you're sitting in and you're singing sounds pretty damn good.
Lots of help from technology. Lots of help from some good microphones and great speakers and wonderful sound people.
My parents every Christmas gave us a Broadway show, and we were an artsy family, and in 6th grade I had front row seats to see you in Miss Saigon. And when that helicopter comes down and that whole moment, as a 12-year-old musical theater freak, it was just a moment. It was just a moment that will forever stay. So I know that role is iconic in general.
Yeah, it is quite, isn't it? Yeah, that role is something. That role is a beast. It's a beast. It's a beast to sing.
How old were you when you started with Saigon?
In London, I was 18. I left the show about a year and 3 months later. We opened in September of 1989, and I left in December of 1990. And then opened in New York. Our first preview was in March of 1991, and I had just turned 20 the month before. So, yeah, I was young.
Yeah,
so
and that's like
young.
A beast of a score.
It is a beast
sing.
it's a beast for everybody. I think everybody was having vocal trouble.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was actually one of the later casualties. There were others who were having trouble before I started having trouble. I might have been one of the last people to have an understudy go on. Wow. So I was pretty tough. But I mean, once it really did get to me, then I really had to take a couple of weeks off. Then I went to a wonderful singing teacher who basically took my voice apart, put it back together. And then when I went back into the show, it felt like less of a beast. I mean, it's always a beast, no matter how great your technique is. But it just didn't feel as intimidating, I guess. I knew that I would be able to get through every performance, but I would still have paranoia because it's huge. It's a huge thing. And thinking about it now, if my technique was as strong as it is, as it currently is, then it wouldn't. I don't think I would have been stressing out as much.
Right.
But it's actually okay that I went through all that if it means that I get to meet Mary and I get to strengthen my singing, because then that leads to all the long-term stuff that comes after. And everything turned out all right anyway in the end. So, I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. It all ended up okay.
How are you doing in quarantine?
I'm actually doing pretty well. I seem to thrive in isolation. I seem to thrive when there aren't too many people around me. I mean, I'm always leery of like large gatherings, which is ironic because what do I do for a living? I stand in front of very large audiences and I sing, but I'm however many feet away from them. So there's a difference when you're, amongst a lot of people and when you're about 20 or 30 feet out looking at a whole lot of people. There's a difference.
Right.
So I'm not always the most comfortable surrounded by a lot of people, but I'm perfectly fine on stage because how many people are there on stage? There's not really a whole lot.
Right.
So it's fine. So, I mean, in isolation, I've been doing well. I fell into a BTS rabbit hole. It's a really deep rabbit hole. And they're so much fun. And the more I discover about them, the more I learn about like their work ethic is bananas. It's
their choreo and their
choreography. Here's the thing. I'm like, maybe they're just like any other South Korean boy band. Maybe that's just it. And then I go on Netflix and I watch this concert from, I think, 2016 or something like that. No, 2015. Well, whatever year it was like a whole it was like this festival. So there's one K-pop act after another. There's rapping, there's the boy bands, there's the girl bands, there's soloists, and then there's them. And they're still kind of like a couple of years after they debut. So they're not like the top tier act of the night, not yet. But there was a look in the eyes that was just different. There was hunger and ambition and everyone else, it was like, everyone else it was like, let's entertain the crowd. But it looked like they had an agenda going in, and it just felt different. There was just something different about them, that they had purpose and clear intention. I'm like, I'm okay. And it's like, and the youngest member at the time was 17 years old?
Something like
ridiculous. So they're babies. They're literally babies. The oldest member is maybe 22. The youngest one is like 17, and they're all hungry.
Yeah.
So, it's like when you watch all of these performances, say like these Broadway extravaganzas or something. It's like there are people who you see kind of doing well, and you're like, yeah, that's fantastic, that's great. And then here comes somebody that changes the temperature of the room, and it's like you just recognize that there's something different about them. So that's kind of what that concert felt like as I was watching it.
That's a fun quarantine rabbit hole.
I started off with Dynamite. It was.
I was gonna say, it's a bop. It's a song.
It's a bop. It's like, oh, it's a good summer song, and I'm like, oh, they're cute. This guy is cute. They're adorable. And then here they come in the Gucci suits, and then I'm like, oh God, why do I feel attacked right now by these men? And then I'm like, okay, that's still the cute one. And then here comes the one of them with the green waistcoat and matching trousers with the longish blonde hair, and I'm like, okay, that's it. That's the one. That's the one that's going to drag me into this rabbit hole, kicking and screaming. That's going to be the one.
Well,
and he just looked different, and that was it. Done, and I'm dead.
Young and hungry. I just read this fact about you starting out. You're obviously, besides Miss Saigon, your Les Mis and you singing On My Own is. That was your audition song? That
was my audition song for Miss Saigon, and it was actually a recommendation by a friend to use that song to audition with. I didn't know anything about Les Mis at the time. I had no idea how life-changing the show was going to end up being for me, and how the show was going to be like, everybody has that one show, the show that they are obsessed with. That was mine. Once I started listening to the cast recording, that was it. Done. I was done. I was dead. Everybody in that cast recording killed me. I was listening to the Broadway cast recording first. So it's Randy Graff, it's Cole Wilkinson, it's Terrence Mann, it's Francis Ruffelle, it's Judy Kuhn, whose career I seem to be mirroring. One of the roles that she's done is a role that I've been able to play here in Manila. And she's one of my voice pegs, like one of the people that I try, not necessarily to sound like, but whose technique I try to emulate because it's just so gosh darn perfect. So listening to the majesty of that score, and I just remember listening to it and I'm just going, wow. I didn't think that musical theater and Broadway was that, you know? I mean, I kind of stopped at, what was it, Cats? That was it. Maybe a few years before, but it was like, all right, I'm hearing Memory and so many people singing it, but that was it. And then here comes Les Mis, and here comes like unabashed emotion by everybody on the stage, and you know, heart on sleeve, no subtlety whatsoever. But that was the attraction. I think, that everyone was just so emotional and openly so, and it was great. It was absolutely fantastic. So that show is incredibly important to me, and to have gotten to be in it, and not just once but twice, it's nuts. It's crazy, and I always have like wonderful memories of playing both of those roles.
That's great. That's great. I'm excited because I'm running out of things to watch on TV, and you have a PBS special coming out. Which
guess what? We're in quarantine. I have new content.
So
thank you. Enjoy, everybody.
This was filmed live from the Sydney Opera House. Yeah, this was filmed live
at the Sydney Opera House last year, actually. It was in between runs of Sweeney Todd, because I did a run of Sweeney Todd in Manila, and then I did another run of it in Singapore. So in between that, because I wasn't doing anything, I headed up to us. Like, I'm not busy enough. I headed off to Australia. I was doing an Australian tour. And one of the stops was Sydney, and the Sydney Opera House with the Sydney Symphony Orchestra. And my brother was the musical director for the entire tour. So he conducted, and he's conducted the symphony on separate occasions as well. Like, I had an engagement, and then they invited him back for a classical presentation. And then, of course, he came with me for my second engagement. We filmed 2 nights, 2 performances. There were 4 performances in all, but we only filmed 2 of them. We partnered with Cam, and 1 year later, it's going to air on PBS, and I'm so excited because it just feels like such a privilege to sing in that venue. And I remember my breath being completely taken away when I first was walking towards it. I remember I was staying in a hotel that was close to the Opera House, so I think I could even look out onto it, I think, unless my memories are all just hazy now. But I do remember leaving like the hotel and walking towards it, because we had a private tour, and being awestruck by the architecture. And we were taken to the concert hall, and my manager was with me, and my musical director, Larry Yerman. and my makeup artist. So the four of us were taken on this tour. And out of my mouth came the words, I wish I could sing here one day. And Josh Pultz, my manager, with this twinkle in his eye, he said, I think I'm going to make some phone calls. And he did. And well, then here came the first engagement, and then here came the second engagement. And that was about, that visit was about 5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, when you have good people surrounding you, I mean, your dreams will really, really come true.
I want to share the promo commercial so that everybody can see what's in store.
Okay.
So, sit tight.
Meet one of Broadway's best performers when Lea Salonga sings some of Broadway's best music with the Sydney Symphony Orchestra.
At the Sydney Opera House. Oh my gosh. What did they hear when the heart beat?
We'll all feel good with Lea Salonga in concert
This is me.
on Great Performances.
The day after Thanksgiving.
The day
so
after
good.
Thanksgiving. So while people are in their turkey stupors, they can watch it. While they're having their leftover turkey.
I have to tell you the smallest of small world stories regarding your brother.
Oh,
so
excellent.
During this pandemic, there was this LA regional COVID fund for small businesses and specifically for arts businesses.
Okay.
And so I got an email, about it, and you could apply for this fund, and they were giving out like $5,000 grants.
Oh,
So,
sweet. Okay.
Yeah, so I applied, and then I never heard anything. And I got an email from another organization that connects nonprofits and whatnot. And
okay.
And I responded, and I said, I applied, but I never heard anything. Is there anything I need to do? And so this woman called me. She said, thank you for emailing back. The next round, I think there's like 5 rounds of funding. The next round is going to open up next week, and you should just apply again and blah, blah, blah. And she asked what I did. And I told her, and she said, my parents are both musicians, and, they have lost all of their engagements. They live in the Philippines. And I said, well, I work with an artist that lives in Manila, Lea Salonga. And she said, you're kidding me. And I said, no. And she said, my father is her bass player in Manila, and Lea's brother Gerard is my godfather.
Oh, that's nuts.
Her name is Selena Pacana.
Yes, I totally know who you're talking about. Oh, he's wonderful.
What are the chances?
Her dad's name is Romeo. He goes by the nickname Myong. Excellent bass player, fantastic musician, and he was like one of the last musicians I got to work with before the pandemic, because I did concerts in Dubai. So I took my brother, I took a guitar player, 2 keyboardists, this bass player, and 3 backup singers and a drummer. So there was like 9 plus me. So we were 10 people on stage, and Myong, Selena's dad, was part of it. And we've been working together for what feels like forever. I mean, I do have a couple of bass players that I work with, but he's so funny and so much fun. Just a really great guy. And he works with so many wonderful artists here in the Philippines. So he's quite in demand. Really talented and fantastic human.
I bet your daughter Nicole and your husband Rob are happy to see you. You're always on tour, so this must be nice.
This is a nice, I think, break. My daughter, I think, is loving it. She's a teenager, but I think, she never has to say the words, get out of my hair, Mom.
Right.
And I'm not a helicopter parent in any sort of way. I think I'm kind of raising her kind of like a Gen X type of the way the Gen X's were raised, where, yeah, I'm leaving you alone, figure out a way to entertain yourself. Which is, I think, the way a lot of my generation was raised. If you know how to turn on the TV, you can know how to answer the phone, know how to make a meal for yourself, unsupervised. If you're not afraid of the kitchen, and my daughter most definitely isn't. So she's independent. So I don't have to worry about her. I don't have to try and figure out activities for her. She knows how to entertain herself. I will hear her singing musical theater in her room, or she'll be doing an online game with her friends, or she'll be writing or drawing. And it's like she knows how to keep herself occupied and entertained. Like, I don't have to like check on her every 10 minutes to try to keep her busy. She'll just do it, which makes me feel very proud. Yeah, that she can just handle herself. I'm just here for support. You know where to find me. I'm in my room.
You need me.
Do you think she's going to go in the business?
She wants to. She has had the taste for it. She's performed in a lot of my concerts here since she was maybe 8 years old, and now she's 14. So there's been quite a few. She's done a musical. She was in the children's ensemble of a production of Matilda here. Wow. And yeah, and she was so good. So I'm like, all right, maybe this will convince me that, yeah, maybe you should go into this. And yeah, but she's also starting to display other talents. And she's actually good with, if I'm coaching her on something, she doesn't take a note personally. Because I also tell her, okay, whatever note I give you, it's so that you get better at what it is you do. This is not your mother talking. This is.
I need that lesson.
Yeah.
Don't take the note personal.
Yeah, don't take it personally. It's, if I want you to hold this note longer, if I want you to hold off on the vibrato, if I want you to say something in a certain way, it's for the sake of the show. It has nothing to do with who you are as a human being. Right. And I think a lot of young performers also need to learn that. And I would have loved to hear that when I was, say, in my teens and 20s, not to take things so personally. Because when you're young, you get so attacked. Yeah, and then you get older. and then you get old. I mean, I'm old. I'm turning 50 in February.
Oh my goodness.
So, I mean, my daughter's really great about it. She's like, Mom, that's not old. That's really not old. Not anymore. So, yeah.
I have to say, when quarantine started, when New Jersey, I'm in Jersey, when Jersey and New York opened a little, the movie theaters opened at limited capacity. And I have a friend, Mike, who called me up and said, do you feel comfortable going to the movies? And I was like, I guess sure. And we saw Yellow Rose because we went and saw Once on This Island to see Roderick Covington. We went to see my friend Roderick, who
yes, Roderick.
And we waited after the show. We were in the theater when the show was over to see Roderick. And you walked by and said, excuse me, to my friend Mike, and he almost fainted dead on the floor. He was like, Lea Salonga. And we went and saw Yellow Rose because he's such and the movie is stunning. What a beautiful
It is stunning.
movie.
You know, I should be more humble about the things that I do, but I can't. Not about that one. That was just, it was a beautiful experience to make. When I finally got to see it, it was just absolutely beautiful. It was gorgeous. And it was a labor of love for everybody. Everybody just really loved being a part of it.
You're the aunt. You sing in the movie. You have a beautiful song in the movie. And it's just, so if you can see it, and if the theaters or it's streaming or when it's out, make sure you check it out. It's a beautiful movie.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm really proud of it. It's, but with a Filipino-American director. She was also one of the screenwriters of the movie, and a Filipino cast. It's like, it's just so dumb how much of a blessing it is. It's just crazy, incredible. And we got to film in Austin, Texas. And the cool part about it, like the side blessing of it, was that I got to hang out with my cousins, one of whom is in Austin. So I was able to hang out with her and her husband and just like drink in the lobby of my hotel and just, and enjoy and catch up. Travels like that. I'm like, I get to see this person. I get to see that person. So yeah, so I was able to hang out with her, which was fantastic.
So good.
So
So good. I
good.
can't wait to see it. Lea, I cannot thank you enough for joining us from so far away. And I think of you often. I think of you every time Josh and I reschedule one of your concert dates, which we do pretty much every day.
Yeah,
So-
that's how it feels. Every conversation is like, okay, what's it looking like? What's it looking like?
I know.
And you know, the status of like the COVID status in different parts of the world is different.
Yeah.
You talk to somebody who's in Australia and they're like, oh, everything's opening up again because we've not had any local transmissions for like ever. And I'm like, and our numbers in Manila are going down slowly, but they're
good.
going down. So I'm happy. I also try to keep a lookout on the number of deaths, and that one scares me a little bit sometimes because it's on one day, it could be like 5 people passed away.
Yeah.
And you're hoping that it gets to 0, and then the next day it's like 95 people passed away, and it's like, where are these people coming from? And you know, are these people that were healthy? Are these people that had comorbidities? Or did these people have pre-existing conditions that made them more vulnerable to this? So there's questions constantly. But when I see the number of the infections reported that day and it gets lower and lower, it gives me some hope that maybe early next year things will be better here, because man, the live events industry got slammed once everything went into lockdown. So I'm hoping that people are able to get back to work.
Well,
But it has to be done safely. That's the only way it's going to happen.
You'll have dates around here, and I already wrote to Lee. I was like, Lee, she's doing a show in Jersey. You better hook it up. I'm coming. I'll be there. I'll be there.
Wow. Well, it's been great to catch up with you.
Likewise.
I can't wait to see the PBS special, November 27th on PBS nationwide.
And there's also a CD of the engagement coming out, and the physical product will be available on Amazon.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So people will be able to buy the CDs from Amazon, and I think the streaming platforms will have it as well on the same day.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Stay safe.
You too. Thank you.
Yes. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye. Oh my gosh, this is that's the CD.
There's
there.
This
Yeah.
is how stunning is the
I
picture.
know.
And
It's literally like one of the most iconic structures in the world. You
Absolutely.
know, I can't imagine.
What better way than to spend the day after whatever your holidays are? You know, speaking about Thanksgiving, no show next week, and
I know. Are you gonna cook? Do you cook?
No. Do you know? I thought the fire department here. Lee cooks. Everybody.
I am cooking. I literally bought a 20-pound turkey for 2 people.
I burned Brussels sprouts and had the fire department had to come through my house to make sure there was not a fire. I do eggs. I cook. I just wanted to say, firstly, you know, Lea Salonga, spending the day after Thanksgiving watching that special looks gorgeous. But I really want to say to you, Lee, thank you. You know, in this time, we don't have a show next week, of being grateful. These past months have been so crazy. So many people have been sick, and so many things we've had to mourn so much of things closing and not being able to be together with families. And this experience and this little QCC experience and the people that watch, and you especially, have really been such a beautiful blessing this year. So thank you. I'm so thankful for you.
I feel exactly the same way. It has been a joy spending 33 weeks with you.
That's longer than most of my relationship.
No, I feel like we're going steady.
We'll
it's crazy.
All new shows for forever. Who knows how long we'll be here till they kick us out.
I know. Well, thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Enjoy your week off from me.
Yes, enjoy your week off from me. You'll be having turkey and all of the trimmings and everything with Mark and everyone. So I'll be thinking about you on Thursday. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Hey, who are we kidding? But we will. I'll see you on the screen on December 3rd.
I'll see you December 3rd.
All right. Take care,
everyone.
Bye.